Hello everyone. So friends, in this lecture we will discuss how to resize an array in Java. So friends, as you all know that when we initialize an array, we provide a size that how many elements this array can hold. And this size we have to provide when we are creating an array object. But sometimes what happens that we don't know that how many elements can be there in an array at the time of initialization. So therefore doing the resize of an array is a very common operation in many algorithms. So for example, when we use ArrayList, inside the ArrayList we create an array of default size, and when we add elements to that default size, it gets stored in the internal array, and as soon as we try to add one more element, so internally what happens, a new temporary array is created with a size more than that of the original array, and then all the elements are copied from the original array to this temporary array, and finally the original array points to this temporary array. So friends, now let's see the demonstration of this algorithm. So here is the algorithm, and let's say we have this array whose length is 4 because it can store 4 elements, and here you can see that all the elements inside this array are filled. So therefore there is no more additional empty space left to add more elements. And if you want to add more elements, what we do is we simply call this resize method by passing in an array, and we provide a capacity that how much more elements you want when this resize is done. So let's say we call this resize method by passing in the array, and whatever the length we have, let's say 4, we simply want to double the length, so we pass the capacity as 8. So now this method will be called with the capacity as 8, and by passing this array. Moving ahead. So friends, once we initialize this array, we can't add more elements to it. So what we do is we create a temporary array for whatever the capacity we provided. So here we will create a temporary array whose capacity or size would be 8. So now this temporary array will range from 0 to 7, storing the 8 elements, which is nothing but the capacity of this array. Moving ahead. Now friend, as we have created this temporary array, our other task would be to copy each and every element of this array to this temporary array. So in order to do that, what we do is we provide a for loop which starts from 0th index and goes to the array.length -1 index. So here value of I will be 0 when this for loop starts. It will simply point to the 0th index, and we know that value of I, which is 0, is less than 4. So therefore this for loop will execute, and in the for loop what we'll do, we'll simply copy the value stored at the ith index, which is the 0th index, to the temporary array at the ith index, which is 0. So here what we are simply doing, we are simply copying this value, which is 5, to this temporary array at 0th index. So it would look something like this. So 5 is copied here. So now we'll move ahead. Now we'll increment the value of I. So I becomes 1. It simply means that we can use this I to point to the first index, and value of I, which is 1, is less than 4. So this for loop executes, and now we'll simply again copy the value at ith index, which is the first index, to this temporary array at first index. So it would look something like this. Moving ahead, we'll increment the value of I by 1. So I becomes 2. It will point to the second index now. Now we'll copy the value at second index to this temporary array. So it would look something like this. The 3 is copied from the second index to temporary array at second index. Moving ahead, we'll again increment the value of I by 1. So I becomes 3. So it will point to the third index now. And we know that 3 is less than 4. Therefore, the for loop will execute. And finally, we simply copy the value stored at the third index to this temporary array at the third index. So it would look something like this. Moving ahead, we'll increment the value of I by 1. So I becomes 4. And we know that 4 is not less than 4. So this condition comes out to be false. So therefore for loop will terminate. Which actually makes sense because we have copied all the values of our original array to this temporary array. So this for loop will exit. And at the last step what we'll do is, here you can see that this temporary variable is pointing to this array object in a heap. And our array is pointing to this object in heap. So now what we'll do, whatever the value is stored in this temporary array will assign to our original array. So it simply means that we are reassigning this array to this array. So it would look something like this. That now this array will point to this temporary array, which is nothing but pointing to an array object in heap. So friends, after this resize method gets executed, our original array is pointing to an array having size as 8. But here you can see that there is issue with this code. Once the resize method gets executed completely, here you will find this array will also get garbage collected, because the return type of this method is void and we are not sending the value stored in this array from this method. Therefore whatever we did here will be garbage collected finally. So instead of keeping this resize method as void, what we should do is, we should keep the return type of resize method as integer array. And here after assigning the temporary variable to array, we should return the value stored in the array variable. So that whatever the value is returned from this method and whoever is calling this method should actually get a reference to this object in the heap memory. So this is one step which is very much important and we must do, that we should return the array after resizing it. And also friend, here you can see that we even don't need to do this reassignment here. What we can directly do here is, as we have copied all the elements from the original array to this temporary array, and this temporary array has capacity of what we have passed, we can simply return the value stored in this temporary array. Instead of assigning it to array variable and returning the array variable, we can simply return the value stored in this temporary variable. So friends, this was a demonstration of how to resize an array using this animation. Now let's go to Eclipse and see the working of this code. I hope you like this video. Thanks, have a nice day.